Hello, you guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. So, my name is Christabel, the original Power Ranger princess, and on this channel, I like to do a lot of story times. I talk about my experience dating, especially as a transgender woman, um, and I focus on the context of my experience. So, before I even start this video, I want you to know that in no way am I trying to attack anybody. I wanted to make a video about divestment. Now, as someone who proudly considered herself a divestor and was really a part of that movement, and I no longer consider myself a divestor, I just want to talk about some of my issues with the divestment, movement. I'm going to discuss the pros that I've seen as well as some cons, which I think not enough people talk about. So, what on earth is divestment? So, the word divestment essentially means to pull away from either an institution, a person, or a community. Now, in the Urban Dictionary, it refers to Black women who basically are no longer dating Black men. Often these women prioritize, or rather, it's just that they keep the same energy that a lot of men within their community have kept. Let's just keep it real. As far back as, the 60s and 70s, yes, as far back as that, even further, there have been many Black men who've actively sought after non-Black women. Now, I remember in the 90s and early 2000s, this kind of like being a thing where a lot of Black guys who had reached some level of status would almost always be in an interracial relationship. Now, I fully support interracial relationships when they are based on mutual love and attraction, not when there is an agenda. So, the divestment movement essentially, I think, really came out of the swirling movement. And the swirling movement essentially was about Black women being in interracial relationships. And it was a space that really encouraged Black women who had otherwise never navigated those spaces to, jump in and try the white waters. So, I'm someone who's always been in an interracial relationship. The boyfriends that I've had have always been white. The hookups I've had, girl, like I've been with white men, mixed race men, Asian men, gosh, like I don't judge color. If you're Black, if you're mixed, if you're Asian, if you're Caucasian, you can come over. So that's always been my thing, but dating within the Black community as a trans woman obviously poses some threats. So I mainly dated within white spaces. Now, I'll admit that I'm someone who has struggled with, my own Black identity. Because I grew up in a society that had just come out of apartheid, I unfortunately had many experiences that left me feeling inferior to white people, to palm colored people. Now, we can blame a lot of things for this. We can talk about how there is white supremacy, we can talk about apartheid, we can talk about all of these things. But at the end of the day, I was left with a deep, indelible scar and a fear, essentially, for Black men. Um, I was afraid because of the transphobia I had experienced that realistically a Black guy would not take me seriously or might be more violent towards me. So it only ended at hookups. Now, I think what's positive about the divestment movement, now going back to the divestment movement, what's positive about it is that so many people live in a space where they are essentially in a fishbowl. They refuse to look outside of their own community, and they believe that the only options that exist are within their small town, their neighborhood. And what prevents so many Black people, Black women especially, from dating out is a variety of reasons. One, not having navigated within those spaces, in that maybe you went to an all Black school, lived in an all Black area, and the community in which you lived didn't allow for that. Two, generational trauma, which presents itself differently. For a lot of Black women, growing up, you're just taught to worship Black men. Media teaches you this, your parents teach you this, and the society at large teaches you that as a Black woman, it's your role to be the queen to your king. Now, obviously, as someone who's traveled and has experienced different cultures, I see the benefits in interracial relationships. I definitely do. I think two human beings that love each other, go for it. As long as it's love and not insecurity masked as something else. So the divestment movement essentially was and still is wonderful in that it encourages Black women to look outside of Blackistan and open their horizons. A lot of content creators talk about, dating Caucasian men, Caucasians, Hispanic men, um, Asian men. It looks at all of the different communities. And what I found problematic is a lot of women in that space seem to have moved from Black male worship and only seeing Black males as their potential partner moving into white male worship or Asian male worship. And there is this belief that, oh, okay, because I've opened up my options, I can transfer the love, the attraction that I may have always had for men in my community to men in another community. And it can turn into a full blown obsession. As much as divestors may talk about vetting men, often they're so clouded by this man's porcelain skin, how well he speaks English, the fact that his name is Brad, Chad, or Michael, the fact that he is so different from Pookie and Ray Ray or Tyrone, that essentially you fall in love with this idea of what you think a white man can present to you. Now, a lot of men in general, black, white, Asian, all of them, will have this fantasy of being a superhero, saving someone. Many of them never will be. Many of them are just, regular schmegular guys. So, black women that are divested, I feel sometimes jump into dates and relationships and situationships with men of different races with such a naivety. And because they're running away from the trauma of having maybe been mistreated by a black man or someone within their community, it's almost as though we as divestors run headfirst from one flame to another and jump into white, Asian, Hispanic spaces with this anger, this unhealed trauma, this resentment that we still hold for the men in our community. And when you think about it, as a black woman, if you hate, the men in your community, and it's the same for a black man, if you hate black women, it really only speaks to how you see yourself and the potential relationship you may or may not have had with one of your caregivers. So many divestors will jump into white spaces, girl, expecting a white male savior or an Asian male savior. They'll gas up these men, not realizing that if we had to be 100% honest, not all white men are amazing. And the reason I can confidently say that is because I've dated white guys, and they're enough divorced, bitter, angry Beckys and Karens who have told us that some of the men in their community are not the best. The reason I can confidently tell you that Korean men are no better than any other man that walks this planet rests in the fact that Korean women have told us this. That, they themselves struggle with the men in their community. If men from other races are so much better, tell me, are the women within those spaces all happy? Are all the married women in India happily married in happy relationships? What about all of the white women in Europe, Australia, North America? Are they all in happy marriages? Have they all gone on happy dates? What about some of the ones that, went on dinner dates with Jeffrey Dahmer? Did that end well? Now, I know Jeffrey's an extreme example, but the point that I'm trying to stress to you is vet all men. Do not allow your trauma of having had one or two or three, or maybe even more, traumatizing experiences within your community dictate who you are going to date. I think the best thing you can do is to first work on healing. Work on healing that pain, not on giving up on black men just so you can have this imaginary white savior. When you step into a relationship with grandiose expectations that this guy is going to save you and be this white Prince Charming, that is a heavy, heavy, heavy burden to place on someone. And yes, when guys meet you, they want to pull out all the stops. And look, I'll be honest. Studies have shown that in terms of interracial relationships, the ones that tend to be the most successful are between, genetic black women and genetic white men. For whatever reason, that partnership does seem to work better than the opposite, where it's a black guy with a white girl. Now, there are different theories about this, but regardless of what the studies say, regardless of what you might be encouraged by a person off the internet that you've never met, the reality is every dating experience is going to be unique and different. And you should allow love to guide you, not unhealed pain or trauma. I know black guys have done black women dirty. Like I get it. But isn't that just the nature of some bad men? There are a lot of white men, Asian men, all of them, in each and every community that have done things. So what I want you to do is go date, experience all the different flavors that life has to offer. But don't look for a white savior. Don't look for your black king. Don't look for your Indian prince that's going to rescue you. Look for a connection that is pure, based on love, based on someone that understands you, connects with you, and has a level of respect for you. My advice is, if you've been traumatized within the black dating space, is to first step into decentering men. Focus on bettering yourself. Best revenge against the guy who's hurt you, just be hotter. Don't get under another man because you're inviting more trauma. It doesn't matter his color, because at night y'all gonna be the same color anyways. So best advice is to first heal. Be in a state of decentering. Work on yourself. And once you have gotten to that state of working on yourself and you view relationships as something that you have an option of getting involved in, Once you then open up all your options and you vet, that's when I think interracial relationships can be wonderful, blessed, beautiful, and create some of the most amazing and beautiful people that this planet has yet to see. But if the only reason you're dating a black guy is the only reason you're dating a white guy or an Asian guy is because you hate black men or have some antagonism against them, I can promise you that relationship is founded on misery, trauma, unhealed trauma from your part, and is not going to lead you to the miracle or the fantasy that you hope to alchemize. Look, I don't mean to offend anyone. All my beautiful divestors, I hope you're happy, blessed, taken care of, whatever the race of the man is, black, Asian, Caucasian, Middle Eastern, whatever. As long as you are loved in that relationship and you stand in love, for yourself, as long as you don't say disparaging things about your community. I get, the black guys who've gone out and dated white girls often rub it in our faces and say disparaging things to us. We don't have to be like that. We can be mindful, demure, cutesy when we walk into love. Don't focus on divestment. Rather, focus on true love in whatever package it comes in. Don't let anger guide you. If anger and hatred is your compass, it's only going to lead you to another bad man. Like, even vibrationally, if you believe in the law of attraction, you're just going to swap Pookie for Bob from the job, who treats you worse than Pookie ever did. Girl, I'm going to try and make some more videos because there is so much nuance in this experience, and I think I may have come across as very critical, and it's important for me to share some of my divestment horror stories so you can understand why my stance is not on divestment, but rather on finding true, fulfilling love. I love you. I hope you're having an awesome, whatever time of the day it is. I'm going to drop another video, not a divestment video. Just another type of video. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.